So, is this your first time in Berlin?
Yes.
Well, it's a remarkable time to be here. Wonderful music, superb nightlife, marvelous restaurants. You must try this Central Cafe for a drink. You'll need it later. You remember Mr. Bremovich, don't you? Of course you do. Well, he's very curious what you're doing here in Berlin.
On the set.
I am Michael Faulkner, and it is showtime, the July 25th, 2017 edition of the Weekly Podioplex, brought to you on the Chronic Riff Network. This week's birthdays include Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter from the film series, Charisma Carpenter from Buffy and Angel, Jennifer Lopez, singer and occasional actress, Emily Rickards from Arrow, Linda Carter, television's Wonder Woman, Anna Paquin, Rogue from the X-Men films, Summer Glau from Firefly, Kate Beckinsale from the Underworld franchise, Sandra Bullock from a whole ton of titles, Kevin Spacey from House of Cards, Helen Mirren from an amazing list of films, Lori Loughlin from Full House and Fuller House, Josh Radnor from How I Met Your Mother, and Will Wheaton from Star Trek The Next Generation and creator of Wheaton's Law, which very simply is Don't Be a Dick. Starting with the box office report, the weekend was all over the map. At number 10 is Wish Upon, down 3 from 7th. At number 9 is Wonder Woman, down 3 from 6th. At 8th is The Big Sick, down 3 from 5th. In 7th is Baby Driver, down 3 from 4th. And finishing out this week's bottom 5 is Despicable Me 3, down 3 from 3rd. The top 5 this week begin with new release Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, disappointing with $17 million. The budget is somewhere in the ballpark of $150 to $180 million, making this one of the most expensive French film productions in history. Critics gave it a 54% reception, and audiences offered up a B- cinema score. I took it in this weekend and scored a 7 out of 10 based on the gorgeous visuals and the immersive universe, but the big drawback here is the chemistry between those two leads. In particular, Dane DeHaan brings the same amount of charisma and energy to this role that he served up as the Green Goblin in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which wasn't really much at all. In 4th place is last week's winner, War for the Planet of the Apes, adding $20.9 million to a total of $98.2 million. In 3rd place is Spider-Man Homecoming, down 1 from 2nd with $22.2 million and a total of $251.9 million. In 2nd is new release Girls Trip, debuting to $31.2 million. That's impressive for a female-led R-rated comedy, beating last year's Bad Moms. Audiences gave it the rare and coveted A+ cinema score grade, and critics gave it an 88%. This week's winner is Dunkirk, scoring $50.5 million. For director Christopher Nolan, that's a 4th place performance behind Inception, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. Audiences gave it an A- rating, and critics scored it at 92%. Let's close out the box office report with a look what's winning in years gone by. 5 years ago in 2012, The Dark Knight Rises took number 1 for a second week with $62.1 million. 10 years ago in 2007, The Simpsons movie won the weekend with $74 million. The Simpsons movie beat Mission Impossible 2's record for the highest weekend debut for a film based on a television show, and it also beat The Incredibles record for the highest weekend debut for a non-sequel animated film. 20 years ago in 1997, Air Force One said, "Get off my plane," with $37.1 million, and that broke Interview with the Vampire's record for the highest weekend debut for an R-rated film. 30 years ago in 1987, RoboCop took the title for a second week with $6.3 million. And 40 years ago in 1977, Star Wars won the box office crown with $5.5 million, reclaiming number 1 in its 9th weekend of release. The box office premieres for July 28th begin with thrilling spy action and end with poop. This week's headliner is Atomic Blonde, a mystery action thriller starring Charlize Theron, James McAvoy, and John Goodman.
We got the message. I heard it on the airwaves. The politicians are now DJs. The broadcast is spreading.
I didn't think that you would show. Story on the rocks.
Do you pay attention?
I look for pleasure in the details. Speaking of which, I've been dying to ask you a question. Let's go someplace quiet.
An undercover MI6 agent is sent to Berlin during the Cold War to investigate the murder of a fellow agent and recover a missing list of double agents. Atomic Blonde is rated R. The other wide release this week is The Emoji Movie. I wish I was kidding. An animated comedy starring T.J. Miller, James Corden, and Anna Faris.
Order! The motion is carried.
So, how'd it go, Gavel? Hey, Lightbulb, tell me what's going on in there. What? Poop! What is it? Tell me true. What happened?
I know it was an accident. We all have accidents.
You're so soft, Poop.
Not too soft, I hope.
Gene, we were just gonna come looking for you. Why don't you come inside the boardroom and we can have a teeny-weeny chat?
Gene, a multi-expressional emoji, sets out on a journey to become a normal emoji. Patrick Stewart is playing Poop. You heard me. The Emoji Movie is rated PG. There are also 4 titles on this week's limited slate, and you can find those in the show notes. Next up is a look at the home entertainment slate for the week of July 25th, and I'll begin with new release on DVD and Blu-ray, and some might call these 3 titles poop as well. I don't know, I haven't seen them yet. I'm looking forward to it. The first one is Ghost in the Shell, a fantasy action film starring Scarlett Johansson, Takeshi Kitano, and Michael Pitt. In the near future, Major is the first of her kind, a human saved from a terrible crash who is cyber-enhanced to be the perfect soldier devoted to stopping the world's most dangerous criminals. Ghost in the Shell is rated PG-13. The second title is The Boss Baby, an animated comedy starring Alec Baldwin, Vivian Yi, and Eric Bell Jr. A suit-wearing, briefcase-carrying baby pairs up with his 7-year-old brother to stop the dastardly plot of the CEO of Puppy Co. The Boss Baby is rated PG. And number 3 is Unforgettable, a thriller starring Katherine Heigl, Rosario Dawson, and Whitney Cummings. A woman sets out to make life hell for her ex-husband's new wife. For reasons. I don't know. Unforgettable is rated R. Swinging by a new release on digital video, I have one title to share, and that one is King Arthur, a fantasy drama starring Charlie Hunnam, Jude Law, and Astrid Burgess Frisbee. Robbed of his birthright, Arthur comes up the hard way in the back alleys of the city, but once he pulls the sword from the stone, he is forced to acknowledge his true legacy, whether he likes it or not. King Arthur is rated PG-13. Moving right along to TV on DVD and Blu-ray, start things there with Emerald City, Season 1 from 2017, starring Adria Arjona, Oliver Jackson Cohen, and Ana Ularu. Swept into the eye of a tornado, 20-year-old Dorothy Gale is transported to another world, a mystical land where an all-powerful ruler governs over one kingdom, has outlawed magic, and faces not only the wrath of a growing cauldron of witches, but a looming disaster brought on by a mythical force. As Dorothy navigates this dangerous world and uncovers her true destiny, we see that there is no place like Oz. The second TV title is Girls, Season 6 from 2017, starring Lena Dunham, Allison Williams, and Jemima Kirk. In the sixth and final season of Girls, HBO's hit comedy continues to follow the assorted humiliations and triumphs of a group of 20-something friends in New York City. Season 6 picks up 6 months after the end of Season 5, with Hannah enjoying new success as a writer, while her roommate and bestie Elijah considers getting serious about his acting career. Marnie, now in a relationship with Ray, seeks to maintain her independence post-divorce from Desi. Now also a couple, Jessa and Adam decide to embark on a creative project to channel their passions, which could become a source of contention. And Shoshana finds herself professionally on the right path, though personally she realizes their friendships may be holding her back. A time for closing chapters and new beginnings, Girls finds our 4 familiar friends as they attempt to get closer to becoming the women they always envisioned, even as life sometimes gets in the way.
Got a secret, can you keep it? Swear this one you'll save. Better lock it in your pocket, taking this one to the grave. If I show you, then I know you won't tell what I said. 'Cause 2 can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
This week's final TV title is a double-header. We have Pretty Little Liars, Season 7 from 2016, and the complete series, spanning 2010 to 2017, starring Troyan Belisario, Ashley Benson, and Lucy Hale. In Season 6, the series leaped forward 5 years when a shocking event brought the girls, now young women, together again, back in the town of Rosewood, to face a new threat. Now, in the 7th and final season, the girls band together to unearth answers to the last remaining secrets and take down Uber A for good in the most surprising and romantic season yet. I'll wrap up the home entertainment slate with Blu-rays from the past, and I have one title to share. That one is Silkwood, a drama thriller from 1983 starring Meryl Streep, Kurt Russell, and Cher. This is the fairly accurate recounting of the story of Karen Silkwood, the Oklahoma nuclear plant worker who blew the whistle on dangerous practices at the Care-McGee plant and who died under circumstances which are still under debate. Silkwood is rated R. After this brief break for about a shameless podcast cross-promotion, the Weekly Podioplex will continue.
The kids of the 70s and 80s are all grown up, but the good times of childhood don't have to end.
Our generation can share the fun and fandom of our youth with the next generation and bring the past into the future.
And wrap it all up to make a fantastic present.
Join Jedi Schwa and Shaz Bazaar every Monday morning to get your work week started by reminiscing about the past and exploring the future with your earbuds on Techno Retro Dads.
Techno Retro Dads.
Timeless television.
Battlestar Galactica. Roger.
Great games.
Monopoly. Atari.
Classic cartoons.
Bugs Bunny. Muppet Babies.
Arcade action.
Galaga.
The Lazy Book Club.
Origami Yoda. Ready Player One.
Holiday specials.
Charlie Brown.
Toys in the attic.
Kinners.
Family circles.
Watching movies. Playing games.
Education.
History. Science projects.
With news and reviews.
It's 77 minutes of fun and fandom with your earbuds every Monday morning.
12 reasons to check out Techno Retro Dads on the Shot Glass Digital Network.
Make your Monday mornings count by tuning in to Techno Retro Dads through iTunes or find us at technoretrodads.com.
And welcome back to the Weekly Podioplex. I'm Denise with your Quick Flicks. Looks like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers is getting another remake. Now, this is one old movie I haven't seen yet. I've always meant to, but haven't quite made the leap. Another remake of the sci-fi classic is reportedly being prepped by Warner Brothers. The studio is progressing a new treatment for Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is currently being penned by the screenwriter of Conjuring 2. It's also being reported that the screenwriter has an eye on updating the movie's themes to fit in with today's social climate. Invasion of the Body Snatchers comes from a 1955 science fiction novel written by American author Jack Finney called simply The Body Snatchers. The now familiar concept saw a small town in California being invaded by extraterrestrial seeds from space that replaced sleeping people with perfect duplicates grown from pods. However, most people know the story from the 1956 film Invasion of the Body Snatchers, directed by Don Siegel. An updated remake with the same title was directed by Philip Kaufman in 1978 and was just as successful as his predecessor on a critical and commercial level. There was another remake made by Abel Ferrara in 1993 titled simply Body Snatchers and was terrible, but has gathered itself quite the cult following. Another reimagining happened in 2007 with The Invasion, starring Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig. I don't really remember that movie. I mean, I remember that it happened, I just don't remember what it was about. Now, Deadline is reporting that another remake is in development with Warner Brothers and John Davis. The brand new version is being scripted by David Leslie Johnson. The movie is in its very early stages of development, and there's no news yet on cast, intended director, or release date. Hopefully the movie won't be as awful as The Wrath of the Titans. Hopefully. In X-Files news, Mitch Pileggi is set to return for season 11. Skinner is coming back. According to Deadline, Mitch Pileggi has become the first actor to sign up for the 11th season following the return of Duchovny and Anderson. Pileggi first appeared as Skinner in the show's first season in the episode called Tombs, and in the ensuing years has appeared in 85 episodes overall, as well as the X-Files movie in 1998 and the second feature film based on the series I Want to Believe in 2008. The new season begins filming later this summer. It will consist of 10 episodes with a scheduled 2018 mid-season launch on Fox. And in Why Does Anyone Think This Is a Good Idea news, Game of Thrones showrunners Confederate has been ordered to series by HBO. The description. Confederate chronicles the events leading to the Third American Civil War. The series takes place in an alternate timeline where the southern states have successfully seceded from the Union, giving rise to a nation in which slavery remains legal and has evolved into a modern institution. The story follows a broad swath of characters on both sides of the Mason-Dixon demilitarized zone: freedom fighters, slave hunters, politicians, abolitionists, journalists, the executives of a slave-holding conglomerate, and the families of people in their thrall. I'm sorry, what? No, this is not okay. In the days before Game of Thrones was a television juggernaut, there was a book series by George R.R. Martin titled Confederate. Fans and networks wanted to adapt it for a long time. Benioff and Vice's pitch impressed HBO so much that they're returning it into a television show. The two men will be executive producing and writing the original series. When it is set appears to be unclear, but they won't get to work until production on the final season of Game of Thrones begins. Joining them will be Game of Thrones producers Carolyn Strauss and Bernadette Caulfield, along with Nichelle Tramble-Spellman of The Justified Bent and Malcolm Spellman of Empire. Benioff and Vice had this to say about the project. We have discussed Confederate for years, originally as a concept for a feature film, but our experience on Thrones has convinced us that no one provides a bigger, better storytelling canvas than HBO. There won't be dragons or White Walkers in this series, but we are creating a world, and we couldn't imagine better partners in world building than Nichelle and Malcolm, who have impressed us for a long time with their wit, their imagination, and their Scrabble-playing skills. This isn't right. I'm sorry, on so many levels this isn't right. I'm not okay with this at all, and I don't want to sit here and say wait until I have more information, because that would be completely invalidating the actual thing that's going on, where, once again, television is exploiting persons of color for entertainment value, especially considering the topic of this particular television show. 1, 2 white men are writing a show about a nasty time in American history. How fair are they going to be to the black lives affected by slavery? Are they even going to show the black slaves? Or, if they are, is it going to be in Game of Thrones fashion, where the grotesque is turned almost pornographic because white people have the tendency to extol black bodies as they're denigrating and humiliating them? Or are they going to go the Sofia Coppola route and completely erase black faces and black voices from the narrative? Is the story going to be set with the backdrop of slavery as an institution? Is the show going to go with Irish slaves as well, despite numerous busting of that particular story? Is it going to be a story where white people, desperate to maintain the status quo they felt slipping away from them as Congress seriously considered abolishing the enterprise, seized power and kept it the only way they knew how, by enacting laws to make slavery legal in perpetuity, and in so doing grew the enterprise so it encompassed women and other minorities? Is this going to be a mash of The Handmaid's Tale and Man in the High Castle? I don't know, but I don't like it. at all. It irks me that HBO would be okay with this given the current political climate and the history behind both the word Confederate and that damned flag they fly. Also, someone please tell me where I can find these books. George R.R. Martin makes no mention of them in his blog, and I would really like to investigate the source material. Not because I believe Benioff and Weiss will follow it to the letter, but because I like to be informed and I had no idea these books even existed. Make no mistake, I'm not happy about this, and I'm not looking to excuse any of this crap by reading the material. I'm simply asking for my own edification. And finally, Squirrel Girl has been cast. Yay! Milana Vayntrub is playing Squirrel Girl in Marvel's New Warriors on the Freeform network. The latest entry into the ever-expanding Marvel Cinematic Universe introduces a handful of younger, lesser-known superheroes, and Squirrel Girl will be the leader of the team. But who is she? Doreen Green was created in 1992 by writer Will Murray and the legendary Steve Ditko. The story in which she appeared was a throwback to the lighthearted days of the Silver Age of comics, when things were simpler. The heroes weren't brooding and grim and full of their own angst, and the villains were kooky and relatively non-threatening. In her first story, Squirrel Girl fights Iron Man, becomes his sidekick, and then beats the crap out of Dr. Doom by commanding a swarm of squirrels to quickly overwhelm the Latvian dictator. It was a silly one-off, and the character was only supposed to make that one appearance, but, well, let's just say the internet is an amazing tool. But she is a girl or a squirrel? Both. According to her 1992 debut, she was just a regular girl who, at the age of 10, discovered she could communicate with squirrels, and then she developed squirrel powers, including a cuddly tail, buck teeth capable of biting through wood, squirrel-like agility, and the aforementioned ability to talk to squirrels. In addition to her powers, Squirrel Girl has two main defining characteristics: optimism and sheer invincibility. She never falls victim to the "I'm the only one who can save the world" itis. She'll never be an alcoholic, she won't kill her own children, and she won't make a deal with the devil to save her aunt's life. She's a plucky teenager who loves being a superhero and kicking the crap out of bad guys, which she has done. To Thanos, Maddox, Deadpool, Galacticus, and others. Deadpool fears her, and she can take on Wolverine in a hand-to-hand sparring contest. Oh, Thanos and Dr. Doom? Those were the real deals, and Squirrel Girl beat them up, and won. Why am I not reading this comic? Squirrel Girl is currently starring in her own title, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, which debuted in 2014 and has been praised for its cartoon art style, light sensibilities, and relatable characterization of its invincible protagonist. So go out and read it and be happy that we're getting a show based around the adorkable, unbeatable Squirrel Girl. And that's it for this week's Quick Flicks. I'll see you guys next time on the Weekly Podioplex.
Thank you, Denise. And here we are once again at the end of a new edition of the Weekly Podioplex. If you want to discuss anything you heard on this week's edition, we would love to hear from you. You can surf on over to the Chronic Rift homepage at chronicrift.com and leave an audio message right there on the website using a microphone. You can also write an email or send an MP3 to weeklypodioplex@gmail.com. If 140 characters or less is more your thing, you can still tweet us on Twitter. The Chronic Rift is chronic_rift. The Weekly Podioplex is Weekly Podioplex. Denise is Riley James Keith. And I am Womprat99, like the creature Luca Bullseye in his T16 in Beggars Canyon. You can give the Chronic Rift a thumbs up on Stitcher Radio, leave us a review on iTunes, and you can find the Weekly Podioplex and the Chronic Rift on Facebook. The usual disclaimer applies, of course. If you leave us feedback, you may hear your words on a future edition of the Weekly Podioplex. Take a moment, stop on by, and see what other shows the Chronic Rift Network has to offer. We have Cyborgs, a Bionic podcast, the Batcave podcast, the OSI Files podcast, the G2V podcast, Generations Geek, presenting the transcription feature, the Dan and Travis Show, the Sci-Fi Diner podcast, Doctor Who and Mr. Drew, the Home Game Show version podcast, and so much more. If you have a Roku player, it can also be your time machine. You can find us there on the Chronic Rift's Roku channel, which has episodes of the Chronic Rift's adventures in the 1990s, when it was a public access television show on the New York City airwaves. Check us out and find the culture in pop culture. If you're interested in more of my adventures, take a quick trip to my blog, Creative Criticality, where I'm watching every episode of Doctor Who for the first time from the very beginning of the franchise and reviewing those stories in the Timestamps Project. The blog is in the middle of the 19th season, the first with the 5th Doctor. This week I took a little break and I decided to talk about current events and the casting of the 13th Doctor. Those reviews can be found at creativecriticality.wordpress.com, and you can also find Creative Criticality on Facebook. Denise can also be found on the internet at Accessories Not Included, where she talks about her writing, reviews books, and offers her services as a cover designer. Check her out at accessoriesnotincluded.com. If you decide to pick up any of this week's new releases, why not do it through our Amazon store? You get the newest entertainment at Amazon's low prices and high-quality service, and each purchase you make at that store supports the Chronic Rift Network. Your support keeps us on the air, and we appreciate your consideration. Look for the links to our best bets and the network store in our show notes, or click the Amazon box on the website. The Weekly Podioplex is a Lucky Shot production and is produced by John S. Drew. On behalf of Denise and John, this is Michael Faulkner. Thanks for listening. Until next time, there are adventures in drama, comedy, and action, worlds to explore in the depths of film. Get some popcorn, find your favorite seat, and I'll see you at the theater.